Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who is going to do a thorough breakdown of the new wonderful song Break My Soul by Beyoncé. Easily my second favorite Beyoncé song. You can figure out which is my favorite song by looking behind me. But before I get into it, I need to tell you that I have uncovered something very important. The Illuminati is real. And it wants you to listen to house music. What's my proof? 2 of the biggest members of the Illuminati within 1 week release house music. Drake, the owl of the Illuminati High Council, releases an entire album of minimalist house music out of nowhere. Even more surprising, a musician with even more reach, more popularity, Beyoncé releases a song with her co-writer and fellow member of the High Council, Jay-Z, releases a song entirely in the house music mode. They are both poised to be the song of the summer, and it is an Illuminati plot. This is important. This means something. I'm fooling. Illuminati's not real. Somehow, the internet made the Illuminati just some racist way to discredit successful African Americans. There is no Illuminati. There doesn't need to be an Illuminati for there to be injustice in the world. But why am I saying all this? Because I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this music, and I am one of the first people to recognize that Drake's last album was great, a wonderful piece of art. I listened to it again this morning. I am still right. You're going to come around. I'll wait for you. I waited for you with Whole Lotta Red. This is going to be a whole lot of Drake. It's okay. I'll give you time. But it's weird. It's weird that Drake releases this full album, and then like 4 days later, Beyoncé surprisingly releases this song. And so I think there's 3 different ways of thinking about this odd coincidence. Because it can't be a coincidence, can it? So the first solution is that it's an Illuminati conspiracy. Why the Illuminati likes house music, I don't know. I'm sure there's a video about it if you look hard enough in the rabbit hole. There's a second reason and a third reason that I'm going to get into before I get into the song. The second is not a Illuminati conspiracy, but something of a corporate conspiracy. A corporate music conspiracy. A desire to drive music into one direction. Not One Direction, the band with the sushi singer. I mean like a desire to determine the direction of pop music. To explain to you what I mean by that, I'm going to tell you a story. A story of fashion. Fall 1999. Late summer 1999. Early fall 1999. The Gap, the clothing company that used to be irrelevant before Kanye found it, back when Gap was the biggest company in the world, the most important clothing company. They had a series of commercials in fall of 1999. Now, at this point, they used a bunch of models wearing different kinds of Gap vests. And they sat there and they sang along to a song. They looked sort of dead-eyed and zombie-like. And like the camera would pan across them as they sang. If you look carefully, you can see Rashida Jones. These kind of half-smiling faces. And at the time, there was a relatively new trick in commercials of using an infinite white background. I believe it was Volkswagen a year earlier with its Beetle commercials, which first did it. And then the Gap did it with this commercial and their famous commercial for khakis, where everyone's dancing around to swing music. And then, of course, Apple would perfect it with their iPod commercials and all their commercials on an infinite white background. Now, the reason I bring up this commercial is that this style of commercial, this putting the object up front, this object of desire right in the front, out of context, in its purest state. At the time, I thought of it as being fascistic, but that's not the right word. It's sort of authoritarian. It's just like, this is the reality and you must follow. And this was punctuated by the tagline to the commercial, for Gap vests. Everybody in vests. That was their slogan. I remember seeing this commercial. I remember thinking, these fools. Who would wear a vest? It's the most impractical. Why are you advertising vests for fall? I mean, it's still hot outside. Like, who likes vests? They look so stupid. I'm wearing one right now. I look ridiculous. Cousin Larry? But what happened when I went into my senior year of college? I looked around, and how was everybody dressed? Everybody in vests. It was unreal how well the advertising campaign worked. Other companies followed suit. Other clothing companies, till the point where, in the fall of 1999, if you wanted to be in fashion, you had to wear vests. Why? Because a company was able to use its power to authoritarian-like, tell you everybody must wear vests. That's what's happening with house music right now. Drake and Beyoncé, it's a 1-2 punch. Everybody like house now. Everybody like house now. Right? Like, we just have to immediately, I regret that joke so much. I need to edit my videos to take out bad jokes like that. Smash the like bucket if you hate that joke. Smash it 3 times if you like that joke. Subscribe. Tell me in the comments if that joke is good. How whack is my new haircut and my vest style? I feel like Ducky from Pretty in Pink. Tell me if you wore a vest in 1999 or if you were born. But like, this 1-2 punch of house music is going to have a huge impact, because one of these songs off Drake's album is going to be a song of the summer. Break My Soul is already the song of the summer, and it just came out like 10 minutes ago. Already I'm singing it, walking around the house, singing it to my dogs, you know? You won't flip your bowl. You know, I just sing it all the time. But it has this weird feeling. So maybe this is like a corporate conspiracy, or like, not necessarily a conspiracy, but just a real push, you know? There was a period of time where pop music just went full trap. There was a time where pop music went like, okay, now everything's got to have elements of dubstep in it, right? Like, there comes these moments. But then why house? If you're following my community page, you'll notice I posted a Google Trends image that shows that people looking up house music is going way up. Why is it that house is coming back? It's interesting. You know, I think it's interesting, the house. But to think about how maybe Beyoncé released this right now so that nobody thought she was following Drake. That's my little pet theory. That Drake came out with it, and Beyoncé is about to release a house album. She's like, whoa, 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 make sure that no one thinks that I'm just reacting to Drake. I bet they came up with the idea individually, but it makes sense. And this is the third reason why there's a huge house explosion in mid-June 2022, is that it's the zeitgeist. It is the spirit of the time. Everybody invests. Everybody listen to house. It's worth taking a little bit of time to loosely define house music. I'm not an expert on house music. Some people are. Feel free to comment, tell me where I'm wrong, tell me where I was overgeneral. I have the best comment sections on YouTube. I'm not the best YouTuber, but I have the best comment sections. I just do. Because people come on and they correct me, and I tell you, even though I'm Mr. Authoritative guy, I don't know a lot. My ignorance is profound. But in general, and this is partly taken from just a definition I found on the internet, repetitive 4/4 rhythms, 1, 2, 3, 4, including bass drums, offbeat hi-hats, so snare drums, claps, synthesizer riffs, bass lines, and then usually vocals. And this is where I would say Beyoncé and Drake really vary, is that the vocals that we usually think of when we think of house are very loud vocals that almost sound sampled. You know, if we think of just like usually an African-American voice singing a line over and over again. And usually what they're singing are themes of liberation. That's the most traditional form of house music. Lyrics about needing to be set free, or lyrics about being free, about lyrics of feeling joy, or feeling the rhythm, or feeling the beat. And this is what makes it an interesting art form. It came from Chicago. Techno came from Detroit. House came from Chicago. No matter what you think, whenever you think some art form must have been invented in Europe, it usually comes from some African American, and it's not always on the coasts. Sometimes it's in the middle of the country as well. But what's interesting was as this music started going, it started doing a lot of what disco was able to do in the early days. It ended up being a sort of theme song or a place for marginalized people, whether marginalized by race, marginalized by sexuality, by gender, etc. It was a place where they could dance, they could have a moment of freedom, and they could feel connected to other people, feeling their same sense of alienation in society, and they could feel free by expressing themselves. By dancing, by hearing these people, doon, 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 I am so free, doon, 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 doon. I'm just making this up as I go along, but those kinds of lyrics. Of course, it was co-opted by Madonna. Of course it was. Madonna took it and made Vogue and Express Yourself to a lesser extent. You know, like she popularized, she took this style and sort of made it much more mainstream. Interestingly enough, in that Everybody Invest commercial, the song is Dress You Up in My Love that everyone's singing, the Madonna song. Weird connection. So house exploded, and exploded all over the world, and especially in Europe. I mean, I was listening to the Drake album with my wife, and she's like, oh, this is all music sounded like in the 2000s, in the 2010s. I'm like, no, it's not. It was in Europe, right? That kind of European dance music works really well in Europe. And so why now in America? Like, why are we trying to bring this thing which was created by, you know, several very intelligent and interesting disco producers in Chicago in the 80s and then exploded the rest of the world? Why are we trying to bring it back to America? Someone in one of my comment sections suggested it's just because of TikTok. And this does make sense. I have a TikTok, by the way, now. End times, folks. Professor_Sky. I only have one video on there now. It's not good. I don't understand the format. It's probably because of TikTok, because house music works really well with upbeat, dancey stuff, and you're trying to do the other Kevin, go, you know, that kind of stuff. And also like the single line sung over and over again, that works really well with short form things. Which is interesting about what Drake did, because even though Drake is Mr. TikTok, his album is so mellow. So what's interesting is that even though both of these artists are doing some kind of co-opting or repurposing of house music, and it's an interesting, are they co-opting or are they just making it, right? I don't know. That Drake decided to do sort of a mellow version of house. So the vocals on Drake's, with very rare exceptions, are just very mellow. There's a whole other genre of house music called micro house, which I don't think Drake's album is an example of, but it's maybe closer to that. You know, it's not the house where you think of, you know, what is love? You know, it's not that kind of like belting vocals. It's much more mellow, much more in the cut, because he was imitating Virgil Abloh's DJ sets. And by the way, can I just say to everybody who says, yeah, the beats on Drake's albums were good, but his vocals weren't. Well, who chose the beats, dingus? Drake chose the beats. Drake put that all together. You can't insult him by saying he put together a good album where he's the worst part. That's still a good album. I'm sorry. It just makes me upset when people discredit artists when Drake can pick whoever he wants. Okay. But here we have Beyoncé, and she's providing this other style of house. So we're not only getting bombarded by house music. We're getting two different forms. And here we have Break My Soul. Now, I love the Drake album. I think it's very good. The Beyoncé song is 1,000 times better. It is so good. I do like Beyonce quite a bit, but I often think that sometimes the culture around her is a little bit too fuzzy. Like, people just get too into liking her, and like we lose track of who she actually is as an artist. But this is just so good. It's such a great version because it manages to do that thing that house music does. It goes back to being a theme of liberation. Break my soul? You can't break my soul? That's like the coolest message you could possibly have. That's way cooler than What Is Love, or Baby I'm Free, or Express Yourself, or I'm Feeling the Beat. You can't break my soul? That's like the most powerful resistance anthem, because it's true. I mean, if you believe that the soul exists, I believe the soul exists. I don't know where it is, but I believe it exists. If you believe in a soul, it can't be broken. That's like the one part of you that can't be broken. They can break your back, they can break your head, they can break your brain, they can break your tongue. But they can't break your soul. It's so beautiful. And the way that she does it is in this weird interpolation of other songs. And this is the question. Is she just co-opting? I don't think so. Because if she's co-opting, then she's co-opting African American music made for a primarily gay audience, which is like she is African American and she is well loved in the gay community. So I don't think that we can really call it co-opting as much as it's just using. At the worst case, she's doing what she usually does, which is just following trends to stay relevant. But it's an amazing song the way it's constructed. So I guess it's co-produced by Tricky and The Dream, who I don't know particularly well, but if you look at they've written a lot of great songs, and by Beyoncé herself. What it does is it interpolates two different songs, two different samples. So one's from 1990, Robin S.'s song Show Me Love, which is like, if you need a song that just, like, what is house music? Hey Sky, what's house music? This British song from 1990 that was an international gigantic hit, where if you're not from America, you know this song as well as someone from America knows Life is a Highway, okay? Just the quintessential song. It's like everything I just told you, like everything in that definition that I read to you, everything in that is in this song. But it's not just that. She also took a sample from Big Fredia, I don't know how you pronounce her name, their song Explode from 2014. So way after 1990. And this is an example of sort of a bounce song. So Big Fredia is the one who popularized bounce music. I believe I reviewed some of her stuff because I think she was on Dorian Electra's album, if I remember correctly. And Big Fredia is sort of a avant-garde scream rapper / popularizer of bounce, sort of a trans icon who also sort of refuses to be called trans and refers to herself just as a gay man who doesn't care about his pronouns. That's the way he talks, that he doesn't care which ones you use, so I'm going to assume that she means it when she says that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I do not mean to insult. I mean to take Big Fredia at Big Fredia's words. But what Big Fredia really did is what she contributes to this is this yaka 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 sound, like free yourself, lose your job, lose your fear, yaka yaka. It just builds in all that bounce energy. So it's this great synthesis of like house and bounce, and it works so well because what is stitching it all together? Beyonce and Beyonce's voice. Beyonce's voice puts it all together. And what is she doing in the song? She's doing what the usually unnamed, uncredited female vocalists of house music are doing, singing this line. You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. Usually just be somebody in the back. Just some studio person who just sings one thing and it's sampled over and over again, but not her. She's up front. She's the star. She's the house star. She's the producer. She's the queen bee. She is going to be putting it all out, and she's doing it with this beautiful synthesis of genres to create something that is totally Beyonce, but also totally bounce and totally house, all at the same time. The lyrics are very of the moment, we could say. I just fell in love and I just quit my job. Beyonce doesn't have a job. She doesn't need a job. She's an artist, but that's fine. I think she's speaking a lot to this sense of freedom, and what people often need to feel freedom from now is the crushing weight of late-stage capitalism that we're in. That's what we need freedom from. That's why we have the Great Resignation, the Big Quit, whatever you want to call it. Very, very convincing and interesting thing to be putting in here, because I don't think these were themes found in the 80s or the 90s, where a lot of the themes were a lot more about direct oppression and prejudice against these marginalized communities. That's why you needed songs like I Am Me and I Need to Be Free. And here we are, it's like, I just quit my job. And then always in the back, Big Fredia, however in the world we pronounce her name, I just don't know, saying, release your anger over and over again. Like Yoda. Release your anger, you must. Or the dark side. Right? It's very much like a spiritual guidebook, this whole song is. Because Big Fredia is constantly telling you, yaka, 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 release your anger, release your fear, release your anger, release your job. At one point she says that, release your anger, just the whole time. And you're feeling the sense of like just being free. And then what do you do when you're free and you have no job and you're dancing and the thing and you're there? You won't break my soul. Just beautiful. The worst part of the song is the rapping part. I don't need it. I mean, Jay-Z gets songwriting credit on here. I don't know if that's like a tax write-off or something. They're so good at business. Or if he actually wrote this rap verse for Beyonce. That's the worst part because it's like, we back outside. You said you outside, but you ain't that outside. She says it with the exact Megan Thee Stallion like accent. I guess they're both from Texas, so maybe it's justified for her to all of a sudden have this very specific accent that's been popularized by other female rappers. But it doesn't matter. That's just a short little break of not 100% awesomeness, leading into the chorus coming back, and just these total house piano hits. Do, 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 do. Beautiful third verse, searching for love, we go up, we go down, searching for love. And then even just one of the most important things to say in any of these songs, any of these house songs, any of these songs for collectivity, because the other thing about house music is we're coming out of COVID, sort of. We're coming out of COVID, we think. We believe, we feel like we're coming out of COVID. Temporarily we're out of COVID, we think. And so we've been so isolated, we've been so insulated that we're just sitting there and we're just thinking about our own little things, our own little things, our own little things. But maybe if we go out, then we can connect to these other people and we can be connected to them and we can quit our crappy jobs at Amazon or whatever. And like we can have this communal sense. Everybody. You got to sing. Everybody, you have to sing that in this song. Beyonce sang a perfect liberation anthem for 2022. And she had to use house music to do it. And in conjunction with Drake, we are now entering the house era of pop music in the early 2020s. So I have said it, so it will be. And I, for one, welcome my new house overlords. The pyramid is power. These are my Patreons. They help me buy music, so thank you very much to these folks. I really hope the whole Beyonce album is like this because I will just be so happy. Because I'm learning to love house music. I am. I've always kind of liked it, but now I'm learning to love it. Thanks to Drake and Beyonce. All right. And this, I'm never going to wear a vest again like this. I just did that for the whole vest thing. I'm stuck with the haircut, but the vest that's a gimmick. There's the camera.